The first 2 years I did content, we were sitting down spending $6,000 or $7,000 a shoot. It resulted in no business for me. I was doing it all wrong. Once I made that switch, the content started connecting and I noticed it would get more engagement.
Two-time taekwondo world champion. You've been in the mortgage industry now for well over 24 years.
You're not always winning all the time, and not every piece of content you put out is going to be a banger. Roger Federer, who's arguably one of the greatest athletes to ever pick up a tennis racket, won like 51 or 52% of the points. Lost like 48%. Most of the content I put out doesn't land. I still lose. I lose every day. 80% of my day is filled with losses. The switch I had to make was I had to start turning my ears to that of the consumer. What do they want to hear about? What are they afraid of? What are they most concerned by? What are they confused by? Most of our industry put out content that is literally of no value to the end user or the consumer. It's all just about them. I call it the Rocky III moment, where you win and then you're on top of the mountain and you get knocked off. That loss was the most important thing that ever happened, not the wins. Your success is determined by how much pain you're willing to endure. If you're not doing this stuff, you'll eventually get pushed to a place of irrelevance.
You're a two-time taekwondo world champion, former co-head coach. You've been in the mortgage industry now for well over 24 years. One of the biggest things that you've done in the mortgage industry is you've built a personal brand, when the traditional way for mortgage professionals to get business is like coffees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Why'd you even build a personal brand?
Well, it was getting expensive, right? Like, especially in San Francisco, because coffee here, like the price of coffee goes up faster than it does anywhere else in the country. But I just got tired of the same pattern, right? And it was about 7 or 8 years ago. It was at a coffee meeting and I got stood up for a meeting and I was ready to quit the industry. The agent who had been in the business just 2 years, almost 3, stood me up. At that time, I'd been in 16 years, so you would have thought he would have respect for me and my craft and my dedication to the space. But no, he just canceled on me. Didn't even say sorry, just said I'm not going to make it after I'd already got there. And then I lost some clients that day, and I thought the universe was kind of telling me to quit. And after a conversation with my business coach, I decided that I have to shift and raise my visibility, which is the only thing I can control. And that visibility would be powered and fueled by a personal brand. So I went all in on it, trying different things. Some would work, some wouldn't, but that's what you have to do. And I did it with a lot of fire. I call it like the way Hormozi says it, right? Like you build it with violence. Like you just have to literally go into it like such aggressive attack mode. And it turned the tables and it changed the game. You know, and I think for people in our space, they are trained to start with your sphere of influence. It's very basic mortgage 101 sales training. And then find referral partners, which they limit to just real estate agents because they think that's the only people that you can go out and attract. Solicit them, harass them, take them to coffee. And there's not even any structure around what that coffee should be or what that conversation would be. Take them to coffee and basically beg for their business. But the moment you walk into that coffee meeting, you are subservient. You are basically singing for your supper. You're auditioning for this agent, hoping that they think you're good enough after you treat them to coffee, of which there's 50 other people behind you asking them for coffee. So they're booked for the whole month. They don't have to pay for coffee. They've got coffee dates lined up. They're going to be well caffeinated, and the industry is going to be that much poorer because it's overpriced coffee. But it sets up the wrong hierarchy. And it was happening to me. I'd become commoditized. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people in our industry, because they do the coffee meeting. They feel like they're being busy, but they're not truly being productive. So I thought, how do I change this so I can market not just one-to-one in a dynamic of coffee or whatever it might be, lunch, breakfast, but I can go one-to-many and actually attract agents to want to work with me instead of it trying to convince them to work with me. And so that's why I did it, and that's how it's basically continued to unfold.
And the way you were like one of a few people who went into media, and even from a real estate perspective, having media is the same way, it's just a different client, and you're having them come to you versus the other way around.
Right.
So when you look at like everything that you built now, and you're starting to think through like why you're doing the speaking, why you're doing the podcasting, why you're doing the short form, I just blanked.
That's okay. Were you about to ask, I felt like I knew where you were going. And you said, why are you doing the podcast and why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose, the purpose you're trying to fill in the market space or the industry?
Yeah, in a second.
The problem I'm trying to solve?
Yeah, but you've created a ton of content now and you've kind of proven the model works, but I'm sure there was a time where you doubted whether spending all this time, money on video.
Yeah.
Was there like a turning point for you?
Yes, there was. It was after 2 years. So the first 2 years I created content, I was doing it all wrong. I didn't realize it though. But again, going back to my earlier answer, I was trying lots of different things and doing it with violence. Not actual physical, literal violence, but violence in the way of hitting the market with stuff on all fronts, just slapping people. Like you couldn't open a laptop or a device. It was my goal to make sure that you were sick of seeing me. You know, they would just slap you in the face. Like, there he is again. There he is again. He's hitting me with stuff. But the first 2 years I did content, it resulted in no business for me. Now, I was spending a lot more money at that time relative to what we do now because there's so much more efficiencies and editing is cheaper and there's AI and ways to do it at scale. But, you know, we were sitting down spending $6,000 or $7,000 a shoot, you know, like once every couple months to come up with 30 or 40 or 50 pieces of content. And we weren't really focused on shorts at the time because shorts wasn't a thing. It was like, come up with a piece of content that's maybe 2 or 3 minutes long or a minute long or something, right? Longer was better at the time. And it was really challenging and difficult. So what I would do is I would do all this content. It was produced nicely. It had a great polish to it, but it wasn't connecting with people. So it was raising visibility, but it wasn't resulting in business. So I thought I was doing something wrong. It's not necessarily that I wanted to quit doing it. I just knew I had to tweak something. I'm like, something's not working because I'm not expecting, you know, a windfall business. But after 2 years of doing this pretty consistently, I feel like I should be getting something. Because even agents were asking me, like, what's the ROI on that stuff you do with your silly videos? You know, why do you do that stuff? And, you know, I didn't have a really good answer. I said, well, it's hard to gauge that because I'm really visible, which then is helping me solidify more relationships, which ultimately helps nurture the business that does happen naturally in those dynamics. So it's not like it wasn't working, but it just wasn't turning into leads. It wasn't like a piece of content was absorbed by someone and said, I want to work with that guy or I want to learn more. So the switch I had to make was I had to start putting on the hat and the glasses or, you know, turning my ears to that of the consumer. What do they want to hear about? What are they afraid of? What are they most concerned by? What are they confused by? And once I did that and then just served them what they wanted instead of having to think about what to do or talk about stuff that made me feel comfortable or that I felt really smart talking about or what I thought they wanted to hear as opposed to what they actually wanted to hear. Once I made that switch, the content started connecting and I noticed it would get more engagement. It would be shared. That's when I really noticed it, was when agents were sharing my content. They would take it and share it, or other consumers were taking it and sharing it. Even non-industry people like, this is useful stuff about how to improve your credit score. You know, basic financial literacy that applies to everyone. It's industry agnostic. So once I did that, it started making much better connection. And that's when it would turn into a bit more of a lead flow. You know, like content posted, content engaged, response from me. Somehow we're ending up with an appointment on Zoom, you know, and the conversation started going elsewhere. I'm like, okay, that's it. So I paid the dummy tax for the first 2 years. And anyone listening to this, if you're, no matter where you're at in your content journey, you know it's going to work. And if it's not working for you, maybe think about that. Who are you talking to? And is it what they actually want to hear? Because if it is, then it's just a matter of time before it connects. But if it's not connecting, chances are that's where it's a miss.
So I was making financial content for the end consumer, not even necessarily for the agent, but then the agent saw that as like good content, so they shared it.
Yeah,
as well.
Because when I started doing this, I was so angry at real estate agents for commoditizing me. Not on a personal level. I was just like, I want to go direct to consumer.
Yeah.
You know, if I go direct to consumer, then I can control the dynamic of a client working with me, and then I can pick which real estate agent. So that's what I meant by turn the tables. Yep. I love working with agents. You know, I've got a small group that I like to work with to keep it very focused. And the real lure for me doing this was so that I could help them do it also. It wasn't to make them just turn into a lead attraction magnet, but it kind of did. But when I got into this again, it was to go direct to consumer. What happened in those first few years was the majority of the people that were following me were industry professionals, mortgage guys that were like curious, what's he up to? I'm not allowed to do this at my company, or I'm kind of just, I need ideas. So they would follow me and engage my content, which was great. And then it became a lot more collaborative and community based. And then agents would be watching because they were curious. What's this guy up to? And maybe they would take it and redo the idea themselves, which is great, right? That's like the best form of flattery, right? Is someone copying you. But then what was happening is they were sharing it. And that piece of content and being shared was getting to consumers. So then consumers would cut to the agent, and then sometimes the agent would refer them to me, or that consumer would reach out to me directly. So in an indirect way, we eventually got there. Even now to this day, I would say if you took my content as a pie chart, or my audiences, I should say, I'd still say that we're at about 60% industry facing with the audience. The other 40% is consumer, because there are people that are not in the industry, but they're following me for the financial literacy and advice. And I needed to make it something that would be interesting, right? For real estate agents, it's easy because everyone's so interested in real estate.
Yeah.
Millions upon millions of people go to Zillow every day because they're obsessed with real estate. So for agents, the content is easy. Just show them what you do for a living. They're already interested in it. Nobody wants a mortgage. It's boring. There's nothing sexy or fun about a mortgage. They want the house. So I had to figure out a way to make this content, which is very important, but make it compelling. And the way to do that was not talk about mortgages, but talk about financial literacy, how to save better, how to hack your way into a down payment, hack your way into your first house, how to, again, improve your credit score, make better financial decisions, cut waste, create an emergency fund. All these things started to create traction.
It's, the same thing with agents. Like agents they can't just talk about buying, selling, investing.
No.
Because it's too low in the funnel. So they have to go up to be more local, talk about SF.
Totally.
Future.
What's happening in your market.
And the same thing with mortgage. It's you can't just talk about mortgages.
No, we talk about the economy, what's going on, basically every piece of content, and this is how I know this is how I check myself. This is my guardrail for the ideas I come up with. I have to answer this question of why somebody should give a shit, or what does this mean for you, or here's why you should care. If I can answer those questions clearly, even if it's just one of them, with a piece of content, then I know it's going to do what it's intended to do. If I can't answer it, then it's probably just something about me. It was a little more self-serving, or it's not quite refined enough. So that's important, right? I think for anyone that's out there making content, ask yourself, what is this? Why should somebody care? What problem is this going to solve for them? How are we addressing something? Because once I started, again, doing that, the content really started to connect better.
Were you always a natural on camera, or did you have to learn how to do well on video?
No one's ever natural to the point that they can call themselves that. Even now, the content I'm filming now, 2 years from now, if I look back on it, I'll feel totally different. I might even cringe at what I'm doing now. I'm 7 years into it, almost 8 years, right? Or whatever it might be, somewhere in that area. And if I look at the videos I did in those first 2 years when I got no business, I'd cringe looking at that. So I think nobody needs to get to a point where you're feeling more comfortable. Or that you say, I'm comfortable on camera, because you're never fully comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Every situation's an opportunity. There's a little bit of pressure on you because you want to deliver, but you relax because you've got the reps. Because with the reps come competence, and through competence, you'll ultimately build confidence and comfort with being on camera. So I just, rather than focusing on how comfortable it is, I just focus on reps. Just keep doing them, keep doing reps. When we sit down, our media team, we're doing, even on, we call them bad days, where I'm being pulled in so many directions, we'll still find ways to get 20 plus pieces done. No excuses, because we need the reps, and they may not be my best work, but we got to get it done. So that's what I would tell people. It's not so much about comfort, but I appreciate you saying that. But I think we're all evolving. We're all still trying to get better.
I think one of the best closest analogy would be basketball.
Yeah.
Where it's when you're shooting hoops, you clearly miss sometimes. It just clear as day. When you're playing football or playing soccer, it's you don't always clearly miss. But basketball, it's you either make it in or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with content. It's sometimes you miss, sometimes you don't.
Look, the misses are huge, right? I saw Roger Federer, who's arguably one of the greatest athletes to ever pick up a tennis racket, right? Watching the guy was like watching beauty on the court, right? Not just because he's a handsome guy, but because of the way he played the game, the art itself, and how precise he was. But he gave a commencement speech at a university just last year. It's a really big YouTube video. And I've been always wanting to hear more thought leadership from him. So I was really excited that he's going to be talking about something not necessarily in the form of a tennis interview, because he's retired from the game. But he talked about, he's do you know how many points I lost in my career, and versus how many I won. You would think like because I've won so many majors that it's like some huge I basically only won like 51 or 52% of the points that I played. That means I lost like 48% of the points, basically half. So a little more than half he won, and he landed in this place of like ultimate greatness. But we sometimes falsely assume that he must have won the majority of his points and lost so few. Reality is he lost a lot, right? So there's great context and clarity around like when you think of it that way, right? About what losing actually is. Yeah, you're not always winning all the time, and not every piece of content you put out is going to be a banger or it's going to be great. Like I know, I tell you in full transparency because I do a lot of work with you also, and and I'm always asking you, how can I get better? Like most of the content I put out doesn't land. It really doesn't. Like it doesn't take off. I might have had great hopes for it, and it doesn't, and we just got to move on to the next one. And sometimes there's a random piece that I thought would be just like a sleeper, and it takes off. So you just never know. You just have to keep doing them.
Yeah, there's someone big in the marketing world named Alex Garcia. He used to work for Morning Brew, which is like a massive media company.
Yeah, great newsletter.
And he works with a ton of like consumer products, like 8-figure, 9-figure, athletic brands, etc. And he says you can look at all these brands' Instagram. There's really only like a few posts, 1, 2, 3 here or there, that actually go viral. Yeah. The rest just kind of are there.
It's a crowded space too, right? I mean, there's billions of eyeballs.
But it's like that's all you need is like that 1 to 2.
Yep.
And it kind of trickles over.
It does, yeah. Yep.
So, curious your take. Like, why do you think there's so many people in the mortgage space that don't or like haven't invested the time or the money or whatever in building a personal brand, but then there's more agents who are doing it now in comparison to like how many lenders are actually doing it?
I think for lenders, there's so much compliance stuff that handcuffs them. If I'm fair, I'm fortunate to work for a company where that is not the case. Our CEO is very forward thinking that way, and he gives us a lot of free room, like free will to do what we want, as long as we don't bring any shame on the company, he says. So the handcuffs are not there. But I know for a lot of other people, especially if they work for an institutional bank, they can't have any kind of social presence. Yeah. And if they want to, it's only on LinkedIn, and it's got to pass like 8 layers of compliance in order for it to allow it to be posted. So most of them just look at that and like, it's too daunting. I would rather not do it. I think the other portion of the industry on the mortgage side, the reason they don't is just sheer laziness. They just don't want to do it. Maybe they've been trained to think that business should just be coming to me, and they blame the market, they blame the exterior rather than saying, you know what, the market is what the market is. Let me take ownership of it, and let me control what I can control, which is my visibility. And what's the best way to do that? It's to market using social media as a medium, right? Because marketing comes in so many different forms, but until somebody can prove to me otherwise that you can get in front of as many eyeballs and faces and devices the way you can with social, then social is going to be the way. I think you know that too. I think agents were a lot quicker and have remained way ahead of lenders to do this because, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, the content for them is more natural. Everyone's already obsessed with real estate. So they're on property tours. They're looking at beautiful homes, condos, cityscapes in their markets. It's very natural to just be the content because they do this every day. I think for mortgage people, they feel so stuck and like, what am I going to talk about? Like, I don't want to talk about interest rates. I feel like I'll be a little too professorial. It's too layered. It's too complex. Or they don't feel confident talking about it. So they come up with a lot more excuses not to do it. It's not to say that real estate agents don't. I think it's just a little easier for agents to segue into it and give it a shot. Whether they stick with it or not, it's another thing. But they'll give it a shot because they're in that content every day.
Do you have an email database, but you struggle staying consistent with your email marketing? Email marketing is still one of the most under-leveraged marketing platforms, yet it has the highest return on investment. For every dollar you spend, you get 36 to 1 ROI. So if you want to profit more from your marketing, you need a local email newsletter. So that's why we created the local email newsletter playbook that breaks down Ryan Snaden's entire Naptown Scoop playbook and how he built it from 0 to 30,000 email subscribers and makes over $320,000 every single year. It breaks down his entire strategy, and not just for his local newsletter, but also how he grew the media company to over $500,000 every single year. It goes through his content strategy, how he grew, it goes through his entire team, how he hires, his monetization, everything. So if you want the $320,000 local email newsletter playbook, click the link in the description below. Download it now. It's completely free. It has over 21 pages behind how he built his entire media company. So click the link in the description and download now.
So if you're gonna talk, because you talk to lenders all the time,
Yeah.
like if they're gonna say, I don't know if I want to talk about like, it's just boring, like the topics and stuff. Like, what do you kind of talk through when they're kind of trying to think through what do I want to post about, what do I want my brand to be,
Yeah.
and all of that?
I think you can first start with like just looking back at your client conversations. What comes up a lot? What are the questions that comes up a lot, that come up a lot? What are the pain points? What are the points of confusion? Where are they stuck? There's your content right there. Because if you are having these conversations and you seem to be hearing consistently, call after call, that people are afraid of a market crash, well, then maybe you should talk about a market crash so they can start to quell some of that without having to do it in one-to-one conversations, but now do it in one-to-many through social. So if you just be a better listener, you'll find that all the data you need to turn around and recreate, it's already there for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel at all or invent it. Forget about reinventing. You don't even have to invent anything. It's already there. Just take it and re-serve it up to them or regurgitate it in the way that they actually want to hear it. So I think that for loan officers or lenders is the best place to start.
Nice. And what do you, when it comes to like the future of kind of what you're doing, what you see other people doing in mortgage, real estate, like you're speaking a lot more, like you're doing a podcast, like what do you see as like the future of media and business and how they kind of mix together?
I think everybody, I mean, it was a Gary Vee line he said years ago, and then you've heard other thought leaders in the space say it in different ways, but it's pretty much the same message, like Ryan Strand, that you are a media company, comma, than what you do for a living, right? I'm a media company, comma, mortgage advisor. Everybody, doesn't matter what you are, whether you are a bookstore or you are a real estate agent, you're an appraiser, you're a professional, you're a media company, comma, that. And when you think about being a media company, it empowers you because you have access to so many different platforms for which you can push out programming, right? Like think of a cable network. They have all these channels. What's getting pushed out? What advertisers are there? You know, which audiences are watching which channels? We need to look at it kind of the same way as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. So I think you have to own the fact that you're a media company, whether you like it or not. The faster you do it, the better off you'll be. And then you're a real estate professional or mortgage advisor second. So that's what I am. It doesn't mean you have to do all forms of media. I choose to because, again, I'm continuing to build this brand and its reach through like just, you know, through violent methods of just continuing to slap people. Not literally. People
Figuratively.
are like, figuratively, yeah, with as much content as possible, right? Like I kind of got, there was somebody who got a little bit under my skin here in this market. I won't name his name, but maybe one day he'll know. I'll acknowledge him. But he took issue with a piece of content that I put out, and he says, you know, he kind of was critical of me that I'm not a good steward of the industry. So it's good for all of us, right? Like Tom Brady's of the world, like have a chip on your shoulder. It tends to work out pretty good for you. It's not that I had a chip, but I was like, this is good fuel, you know? This is really good fuel because I categorically disagree with the fact that I'm not a good steward of this industry. I do everything I can for this industry to try and help it. I want it to be better. I want to elevate everyone to be a better marketer. It's really important to me. I'm not competitive that way. I'm very collaborative. Anyone who knows me knows that. I'm not trying to take anything from anyone. I'm like, let's team up and find a way to do it better. So I made it a mission. And I told the guy, like, if you were sick of me last year, dude, you're going to be really, really sick of me this year. Just wait. I'm going to put out even more. So I made like a commitment with my media team that we were going to put out like 3x more content. And so far we have. We're halfway through the year. We've already surpassed the total amount of content we put out last year across all platforms. So we're just going to keep doing it.
And I want to get into like the chip on the shoulder in a second, but when Austin kind of talked about Austin, it's like content allows you to kind of sell as like a service professional, sales professional without actually selling.
You're
like
right.
You're selling yourself.
Right. And Austin's one of the greatest examples. I mean, I talk about him so much in keynotes, right? I think the world of him because he was always already a good content creator. And then he just found this niche of being a hyper-local specialist. I mean, he's like the greatest ambassador to San Francisco online, right? I love watching what he puts out because he's all things San Francisco. It's not even real estate related most of the time, but everything comes back to real estate. He's just a cheerleader for a city, and he wants to talk about what's happening, and he provokes conversation and thoughts and sparks a lot of engagement and curiosity, and it's working. So, you know, anyone listening to this that's in the Bay Area, like he's laid out the blueprint, you know, on how to actually do this. But
So have you, to be fair.
well,
So,
I appreciate you saying that, man. I like again, I like it. I like this very collaborative space. I'm a big fan of like everyone who's doing it, who's like taking the courage and the resources to put themselves out there and try, because we have to. Like if you're not doing this stuff, you'll eventually get pushed to a place of irrelevance, right? I always say it on stage, you exert your relevance or you will be pushed to a place of irrelevance. And I don't think it's more true than it's ever been now, right? Right now it is. Like everything is moving too fast. There's too much disruption going on. If you just sit back and rely on old ways or whatever, like no one's going to find you. You might say, well, my past clients know where to find me. Those past clients eventually are going to, this sounds morbid, they're eventually going to die or stop buying real estate because they're stuck in the place that they're at. So where does the next client come from that's outside of your past client book, right? Even if you want to rely on that. Eventually that well is going to dry up. And nobody takes, in this market, the advice of, well, my dad said I should call this person. If anything, that's probably the last person now they'll call if their dad is telling them that, because people are very independent and want to make their own decisions. And they'll make their own decisions by doing going through their own process of gathering information and arriving at their own conclusions of a sales professional or service provider that they want to work with.
yeah.
And how are they doing that? They're absorbing content. So if you're not there, you're like, the days are just numbered. And is it too late? Absolutely not. Because again, another thing I say, most of our industry, and you know this because you're a podcaster and all you talk to are real estate professionals around the country. Most of our industry, when I say our, I mean everything that falls under real estate, the umbrella of lending and real estate, put out content that is literally of no value to the end user or the consumer. It's all just about them, right? It has no value whatsoever. So if you just put out something that is just even a little bit sincere or authentic or in service to others or in service to your marketplace or solving a problem, you'll already separate from 90% of the industry. So anyone listening to this is like, I feel like I missed the boat. It's too late. There's people way ahead of me. I promise you, they're not. You can instantly catch them and pass them quickly by just giving a shit and being in service to your marketplace instead of making it all about you.
Yeah. Ultimately, you can, with enough like persistence, you can pass anyone. And I think kind of goes to like your story. Like you don't get on stages just because you're lucky. You don't become a 2-time world champion just because of luck. Like you have to persist. There's a lot of failures, just like business.
Yeah.
Very up and down. Kind of going back in your story, the reason you got into taekwondo, like I was bullied as a kid. I saw that you got bullied.
Yeah.
And that's what got you into it.
Yeah.
And you didn't even want to do it.
No, I got scared in the moment. You know, I think I've told you this story before. Like, I'd watched The Karate Kid, you know, and I identified with him right away because I got bullied a lot at school. In first grade in particular is when it really started to happen. And the movie had just kind of come out. Kindergarten was pretty level. You know, it was like nobody even knew how to bully anyone because nobody can even, you know, pee or poop straight, right? Like, there's just other problems you have. But by first grade, the bullying had gotten to a point where it was like really tough to go to school sometimes. And so I begged my mom to put me in a class of some kind, like find me a karate class. So she found the local YMCA and they had taekwondo, you know, it said martial arts. So she took me, and then when I got there, I got so self-conscious and scared because I didn't want to go on the mat in front of everyone. I didn't have a uniform because it was my first day. She was holding my sister, who was literally a newborn. She was like maybe a few weeks old. My brother Neil was there, but he sat in the seats. He ended up joining like a month later. Neil was 6 at the time, and I was 8. And she dragged me in front of the whole class while holding my sister in her arm. Like, because I said, I don't want to go. And she's like, you know, we drove all the way down here. She used more colorful language than that. Like, I'm here with you 3. You know, I had to do this all by myself. And now you tell me you don't want to go. She's like, no, we're going. Drags me out on the mat, plops me down in front of the instructor in the middle of the class, like interrupts him because we were late, which was also very Indian of us to be late. And she just said, he's here for his first day. You know, stating the obvious, of course. I'm like, I looked totally out of place. And the guy's like, okay. And he was really nice to me, and he put me in the back, and then that was it. I got started. But yeah, pivotal for me because I then, in the journey of it, and being a student of the game for 38 years, you understand, and I've applied it towards marketing and everything in my business and my craft. You're never done learning. There's this tenet in Taekwondo that a good student is willing to learn anytime, any place. And a good instructor is willing to teach anytime, any place. And when you put the two together, you've got this harmonious dynamic of mentorship and growth and possibility. And that's what I loved about coaching, because I'm always willing to show up for my guys anytime, any place, even if it's on Zoom or just to talk through something. And then as a student of the game, in marketing, in mortgage, in media, I'm always willing to learn and show up. People are like, you've been doing this for a while, you got the hang of it. No, everyone is just learning. We're all here trying to do the best we can. So those lessons were really formative during those early years, and getting past some real challenging times and understanding how to deal with failure and that it's necessary. And it's kind of come full circle with all the stuff I'm doing now. And I'm sure in the next chapter of my life, it'll be the same thing.
Really quickly, before we get back into the episode, did you know that email beats the ROI of social media 40-1? If you want to turn your email list into more listing appointments, then you need to check out Ella. Ella is the only email marketing agency for real estate agents. We help you build a hyper-local email newsletter. We also send conversation starter emails, and we do way more. So you can turn your email into a profitable marketing channel this year. Click the link below. Check it out. Hope to see you in there. Let's get back to the episode. And I was just kind of curious, the training, the discipline, the persistence, business is an up and down roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows. But it's the ability to kind of move through those highs and lows without letting it kind of get you too far down. And you had, I think it was a loss in 2012 before the 2014.
Yeah.
How did you kind of push through, and what did that kind of teach you that you use today through mortgage and business?
Yeah. No, it's a good memory, man. Recounting it. It was the best thing that happened to me. Because if I had won in 2012, coming off of 2007, because I took the next cycle off in between for a family wedding, and I thought I was done, But then I was like, no, I don't want to be a one and done guy, because maybe people say you got lucky. Let's do it again. Let's find a way to win one more time, and then you belong, right? If you do something twice, then you didn't get. Nobody can ever say you got lucky. So I went after it all. Really good crew training me. We didn't leave anything to chance, but it just didn't work out. It fell short in a 3-2 decision. But that loss, as devastating as it was, because I was consumed by it for 2 years. I went to bed thinking about it every night, literally every night, my hand not being raised. I can still see when I look down my feet and the mat, because I remember that feeling of dejection of just dropping my head when the other guy's hand was raised, and just taking a deep breath and saying, shit, that's not what I expected, right? You trained for months for it all to end in 2 minutes. There's such a sense of finality, an abrupt finality that comes with it. But it, much like how Kobe Bryant stated, and it's written in the book Relentless that Tim Grover wrote, when he tore his Achilles, the recovery started the moment he walked onto the floor to shoot 2 free throws, which he made with a torn Achilles, right? It was savage. But not to relate my loss to some devastating, career-altering injury of one of the greatest athletes to ever be in any sport. But the road back started as I walked off the mat. Every decision I made, every mindset, every frame, and yes, I was going to take some time to kind of detach from it, grieve it in a way, be mad, whatever. But there was no way I was already saying there's no way I'm done. I'm not going out like this, And I've won one and lost one. We're going to find out with one more try which way this goes. I'm either going to lose another one, and then maybe people will say I got lucky the first time, or we're going to win and we're going to settle it. So I call it the Rocky 3 moment. And I think everybody can experience this on some level, whether it's personal, professionally, athletically, where you win, no matter if you lost to get there, then you're on top of the mountain and you get knocked off, right? That's what happened in Rocky 3. It's my favorite Rocky because he was winning, and then Mr. T, Clubber Lang, beats the shit out of him. His manager dies the same night he loses. He's basically on the ground, knocked off and doesn't know. And he's questioning himself. Was I ever really that good? Did I ever really deserve to win? Everything was shattered. Confidence, psyche, sense of worth, sense of validity, his existence. And I think everyone who loses after winning, coming off the mountain, feels that on some level. It's very devastating. So I went through this Rocky 3 moment. And then you start to put yourself back together again. And you start to stack small wins, days of improvement, of getting back out there. Even some smaller tournaments. I went and did the Euro Cup in Spain a few months after and won that one, stacked that. A lot of training, I kept my team together because I didn't question anything. A lot of times, sometimes when things go wrong, we feel like we got to throw it all out and start over fresh. No, I knew I had the right team. I knew we had the right prescription. The cards just didn't fall, right? And that can happen. So we didn't have to change much, if anything, but you put yourself back together again, and then you go through it. So I think everyone can take from this, like, some Rocky 3 moment you've had in your life, personal or professionally, and how you came back from it, because it makes for a greater story. And it made the 2014 finish like so much sweeter. But none of that would have happened had I not lost in the way that I did in 2012. That loss was the most important thing that ever happened to me, not the wins. The wins were great and they were memorable. I'll never forget them, and they've shaped so much of my life and opportunities that were created as a byproduct of that. But the loss was the most important pivotal thing that ever happened, because if that hadn't happened, I would have been cheated out of this experience of growth and involvement. I would have won and probably ended my career right then, saying I won twice, I'm good. But I would have gone through life up to this point very differently. And I'm really grateful for that loss, because I still lose. I lose every day. 80% of my day is filled with losses. Losing clients, losing opportunities. Content day doesn't go the way we want it to. There's 20% is good, 80% is shit. So, but I have the frameworks and the wiring to get through that because of what happened in 2012.
Yeah, I think it's Alex or Layla says it's the ability to take action regardless of your emotion.
Yes.
It determines you as like a business owner.
Totally. The other line that Alex says, which I love, is that your success is determined by how much pain you're willing to endure, right? Or something like that. Like literally just treading water. Like 99% of success is literally about you withstanding pain and suffering. Because entrepreneurship, all this stuff that we all do, is not for the faint of heart. Like, this will beat you down. It'll make you question. It's a Rocky 3 moment every day. You know? Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
So if people want to keep up with you, where should they go and follow you?
Instagram is always probably the best way. And then we've got an online community as well for entrepreneurs, which is all focused on personal and emotional growth, which then ultimately leads to professional growth, called the LFG Society. So we've got that online community. But Instagram's the easiest way to connect with me right off the bat.
You should definitely go check both out.
Yeah.
So everything that you've learned being a coach, being a player coach, student of the game, now mortgage, what does world-class leadership mean to you?
It means just walking the walk, right? Like being the example. Be what it is that you choose to, want to exemplify in the world. Like, be that actual change. If it's change or if it's continuing something, I think it's just continuing to walk the walk, because leaders have to do that. They can't just talk it. They have to walk it. They have to be humble. They have to acknowledge when they mess up. They have to be open to, evolving and hearing other things. And I think, that's the way I choose to live my life all the time. Remain humble, remain open, be a good listener, accept people around you. And I think that's what world-class leadership is.